Every Sheva Bracha, Shalom Bayis speech, everyone says that if you you need Hashem in your marriage, right? If you take, the Yud and the Hey out of Isha and Isha, you're left with an Eish, you're left with fire. So a lot of people think that means like, oh, we have to be religious to have a good marriage. Well, I'm not saying that's true or false, but what really you have to do is to put Hashem in your marriage is to dive in to have a successful marriage. You got problems with your mother-in-law, ladies? You better dive in for that to be resolved. Gentlemen, you feel your wife is nagging you too much? You got to pray to Hashem, please Hashem, help me. Right? We need to be able to dive into Hashem in order to improve our marriage. It reminds me, the first Shalom Bayit question I ever got was when I was asked, what should I do to encourage my husband to go learn more? And I told the girl, you want your husband to learn more Torah? Dive into Hashem that your husband should be able to learn more Torah. Because how can Hashem say no to that prayer? And we have to always remember, if we really want something in our marriage, we have to include Hashem, we have to dive into Hashem, answer our tefillot. So, next question that we have is a parenting question. If the wife is home more than the husband, what should the husband's role be in parenting? And we will start with none other than Rabbi Klatsko, who's home so often.
I knew I would get this question. This is actually a really, it hits home, this question, because I do travel. I travel a lot, it's my job, and a few times a year I'm away for 2 weeks at a shot, and when I'm not on one of my 2-week trips, I'm usually away from, Sunday night until Thursday night. I travel, that's what I do. So, what's my role in parenting? The answer is my role is everything, and it's got to be. I learn a lot of lessons from my own children. My children, Baruch Hashem, we can learn from our children also. I have a child. His name is Yedidia. Yedidia is married, and he lives in Neve Yaakov. He has 4 children. And Yedidia is a big masmid. He's a big masmid. So he gets up at 5:45 every morning, and he comes back from Kolol at 10 o'clock at night. It's a big masmid. And right when he comes home, he tells his wife, every single night when I come home, I will do the dishes, sweep, and make lunch for the kids for the next day. And she knows those 3 things. She doesn't have to do dishes at night. She doesn't have to sweep up. She doesn't have to make lunch. And what I learned from him is maybe he could say, look, I can't do it. You want me to sit and learn? I learned Torah for so many hours, Bas Madar Abba, lots of Bas Madar. So, I'm doing mine. You take care of the house. But no. He never looks at what he does in place of parenting and in place of being a spouse. So it's challenging if your job happens to be that you're away a lot. So it's challenging. So you have to rise to the challenge. You have to push yourself extra and be there for your kids. Now, I've learned in life that there's always a reservoir of energy that we own that we could tap into. If the circumstance demands it, if you were to have a big business deal, even if you were exhausted, even if you were in bed, we have a very nice fellow. I don't want to say his name because he's mak, but he's a big tzaddik. And he gives us extra food from smachot. So he goes to different weddings and he gives us extra food. And we have, 70, 80, 90 people for Shabbat each week. So we have a big Shabbat. And it's very expensive. My wife makes 300 meals a week. So it helps when there's an extra food. So sometimes my wife and I, we went to sleep, go to sleep, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. At 11:30 we get a call. He just collected the food from a nice wedding. There's sea bass, and there's salmon, and there's chicken, and there's pepper steak. Can you be downstairs in just 15, 20 minutes, and collect the pepper steak and the sea bass. Yeah, that's okay. You can turn off. Just click turn off. Yeah. So, what happens? What happens is we get downstairs. We come downstairs. We find that extra energy, and we fill up our freezer with good food. You know why? Because food costs money, and that energy we find because it's worth it. Things that are worth it, we find the energy for. Things that are worth it, we find that energy. And our children are worth it. So when I come home from a trip, and my wife knows this, I can come home from a 2-week trip. I'm a shmata. I'm a rag. I'm so tired. I just flew back from Eretz Yisrael, and I didn't sleep for 48 hours because we had a big banquet the night before. But I know that my kids need my undivided attention from the moment I walk out of the car. So every trip, I take a deep breath, and there they are, and they have their signs, welcome home, Tati, welcome home. And for 2 hours, I just play with the kids. And then they go to school. I let them go to school late the day that I come home from a trip. And then I go to sleep. I'm not telling you this to pat myself on the back. I'm telling you this to let you know that you have a reservoir of energy, and you have to use it wisely. And using it on the kids is the wisest way to use it. So, if you're the kind of parent who's not home a lot, when you have those opportunities, that's the way your life is set up. That's how it is. That's partnasa. When you come home, you don't have the luxury of taking off your shoes and having quiet time because you worked hard. You say, I need to go on the couch, don't bother me. No, you don't have that luxury. You set up your life that you shouldn't see your kids a lot. So when you come home, you don't have the luxury of me time yet. There's no me time. You come home, there's children time. And you find that reservoir of energy, and your children will have good memories, and they'll know that, Tati or Abba or Ima wasn't there all the time. They had to work, but when they were there, they were there. And I'll tell you one last thing. This is what I told this last year when we spoke. I say it again because I think it's such a good idea, and that's why I like to share it. On Friday night, after the meal, when most people are tired, I go up and my kids come to the bed and we play for hours. That's what we do. So this Shabbat, we had 75 guests. I just ran from a Shabbaton. 75 guests. We made a nice Havdalah. I said goodbye to my guests. I ran here. Very busy Shabbat. Friday night, we ran a Kalbach Minyan. But after the meal, spent a few minutes with the guests, and I said goodbye. And I sat up. My kids made plays. You dig into the reservoir of energy that Hashem gave you, and you use it wisely.